By 2035, what does the world look like, especially in the context of longevity?
Society might look pretty different. There's a possibility that a healthy lifespan will become a new resource or new currency. Money itself might not be so meaningful anymore. We also look at fertility and reproductive science.
So would that mean raising a fetus outside of the human body?
That is the goal.
Boyang Wang is building Immortal Dragons, a purpose-driven longevity fund investing in breakthroughs that can extend our health span. His mission is to align capital with science that helps humanity thrive longer and better.
Immortal Dragons is our fund. We are headquartered in Singapore and we invest in longevity life extension projects. And some of our investment theses definitely fall into the radical life extension category.
At what point can you imagine a baby being born outside of a human body?
I would say, well, maybe.
If you were going to advise a bunch of investors, because there's loads of investors looking into the space, they're excited about the space, what would you say to them?
Oh, that's a hard one because really...
The future of longevity is being shaped in Geneva this October. The Global Longevity Summit is an intimate gathering at the Genolia Innovation Hub, running from October the 28th to the 30th, with pioneers like Aubrey de Grey, Matt Kaberlein, and Amy Killen. I am grateful to be joining as an advisor. And if you would like to be there too, you can get 10% off tickets with the code BEYONDTOMORROW. Just check the description for the link. I'll see you there. In terms of what you're doing right now in longevity as an investor with Immortal Dragons, who do you think would see most value in listening in to this conversation?
It probably can benefit many people. It's good to have some new information for their reference, for their critique even. But I would say those who are considering getting into longevity, who are curious, who might have some resources and at the crossroad of deciding, okay, what will I be looking at next? Is it AI? Is it longevity, biological sciences, or space travel, blockchain, stablecoin? There are people who are share a similar position as me, then that would be very useful material, hopefully, for them.
But yeah, why does longevity matter to you?
This has been a recurring and central theme in my life. So it is no coincidence. Since young, I've had ailments and health challenges. I have pretty violent food allergy, childhood asthma as well. So I've had interesting encountering with our modern healthcare system, basically. I witnessed firsthand the marvels as well as the limitations of modern healthcare.
And you grew up in China, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And just imagine in the 1990s, food allergies not really a thing, right? And not to mention to find out the actual ingredient that you are allergic to. That make longevity and survival and existence pretty central theme to me. I always wanted to work on this, and now I'm able to make it my mission.
It's so interesting. When I think of longevity in the context of the East, of China, of Singapore, Japan, I feel like it's just more of a thing there. Like people don't say, oh, you're into longevity. It's just part of life there. Is it different? Is it really different when you come to the West?
Right, that's an interesting topic. We can touch on that more later. There are differences. Okay, from my perspective, I always think that as human beings across different cultures, even religion, races, I always see more commonalities rather than differences. So the few pieces of real difference is valuable exactly because we share so much in common. When it comes to longevity, I feel like one underlying assumption or background is that religion is treated differently in the context of the East. Of course, there are some levels of religion. People would say Taoism or Buddhism, or maybe a belief in your ancestors, right? Or Confucius. But the idea of longevity does not contradict with any of these. In fact, it is even in line with some of the doctrines of Taoism or Buddhism to want to be immortal, to want to pass a legacy or survive and improve. So with that, this underlying idea of sin, of you cannot play God, you should not live forever, is absent, basically. Well, it's not without controversies, for sure. There are all the emperors in the past who died from alchemy and, of course, their pursuit of immortality. In the Tang Dynasty, which was a very powerful, very prosperous dynasty, more than half of the emperors died from some sort of heavy metal poisoning. Okay. Right? So definitely, this is something that people can frown upon, people can stir controversies, but that level of religious resistance is not there.
Super interesting. It's funny. It's been an eternal pursuit, the elixir of life. For you, is it about, because I know your investment fund is called Immortal Dragons. Apart from looking within, is it a pursuit of eternity, or is it actually removing the suffering that people have gone through? When you look at maybe your parents or your grandparents getting old, was it something around that? Was it something just around the abundance that we could create by looking at eternal, that elixir of life?
This is a very interesting one, and I will take the stance that maybe less people will take. I actually emphasize more on creating the abundance rather than reducing the suffering, because, well, there are all sorts of philosophical debates, and I'm generally not so good at that. But there are people who are saying, you know what, if you live, if you even survive, then there's always some hardships. There are always some challenges, and therefore there will be a certain amount of suffering. And therefore, living is not worth it. Well, there's all sort of philosophical roots behind it. I never think of it that way. Suffering, even if it's inevitable, is not exchangeable with the marvels, with the pleasure of living, right? So if, let's say, I can have 3 more years of life, you're telling me that these 3 more years will not be as good as my youth years, that's for sure. I still want to witness these 3 years because I can witness all the new things that come up in this world. So I would not want to trade these 3 years with 1 year of, say, very youthful, very healthy, just for the possibility, right? But of course, there's no such equation. There's no such choices for us to make yet. But if I must take a stance, that's where I will take.
Let's go into Immortal Dragons. It's a $40 million fund that is investing in radical life extension, right? Is that the thesis?
Well, pretty much. Immortal Dragons is our fund. We are headquartered in Singapore, and we invest in longevity life extension projects. Beyond conventional capital investments, we also do advocacy work. So we translate books and publications. We give out grants and sponsorship, all to further longevity study and to achieve our goal. We call ourselves a purpose-driven fund, in that we really prioritize impact rather than economic return. And yeah, some of our investment thesis definitely fall into the radical life extension category.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And you're able to be more purpose-driven because actually all the money has come from yourself, right? Or from your network of your co-founders and all that.
Right. So to be exact, we have one external LP.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's mostly our own funding.
Yep.
Yes, indeed. With this structure, we are able to make more flexible decisions. We don't have an LP mandate, so we are really just be responsible to ourselves. That is one. It's also the purpose that we even set up this fund is to achieve our goal, which is extend human lifespan. This is not a means to an end. Again, it's not that, okay, number one, we set up a fund. Number two, we invest in longevity. And number three, profit. There's no step number three. So this is the real structure.
And what were you doing beforehand, by the way? We didn't touch on that, but how are you able to be in a position to now be leading a purpose-driven fund?
I'm coming from a tech entrepreneur background. When I was going to university, I was considering whether I'll study medicine or computer science. I ended up choosing computer science. And then I was lucky enough to actually work on things that I'm very passionate about otherwise. That is video games. So we started to build our own video game company in 2018. And many years down the road, we have a profitable business in the video gaming space. And that's fortunately where we get the resources to allow me to work on the next thing.
Awesome. And you haven't sold, it's just more that you're able to
Right. It's a stable business.
Yeah.
In the world of video game, acquisition is not that common.
Yeah.
You either have a profitable company and you keep it there, or the company is not doing well and no one wants to acquire it. There's no middle ground.
I hear you. So in terms of, so you've got the longevity fund and you're investing in a wide range of solutions, some that are very radical, some that are less radical. So walk us through, like, what are the, let's say, the three most radical things you are investing in right now that is extending lifespan?
Right. Why not we start with the one of the overarching theme that we focus on, and then some portfolio companies that align with that theme. So one of the things that we believe in is replacement. We call it replacement, not repair. The idea is this: we believe replacement is a very effective strategy for longevity. For any complex machine, it will be very hard to fix or repair part if it's not working. If you take electronics as an example, if you smash your iPhone, even the best engineers in the world will have difficulty gluing back all the shards. That's not feasible. What we can actually do is to replace your screen with a new one. And same goes for battery or motherboard. The human body is, of course, a complex machine that's way more complex than iPhones or even the most advanced computer chips. While repair and treatments and therapeutics are necessary and is under development, for Immortal Dragons, we really want to look at possible technological breakthroughs that can replace body parts, right? And that replacement is a broader term. It can be replacement of organs. It's of course great. It can be replacement of tissues. It can be replacement of, say, blood plasma. And with that idea in mind, we invested in companies in 3D bioprinting space. One of the company, Frontier Bio, one of their flagship programs is the ex vivo fabrication of blood vessel. They use a scaffold and then they sprayed stem cell, iPSC stem cell onto the scaffold. And then with other environmental cues, the stem cell will derive into blood vessel cells, endothelium, and other required cells. And then you will have a blood vessel that can be used for surgeries like cardiovascular bypass. The conventional approach is to take a segment of your vein from the thigh, which is not only traumatic, but sometimes not feasible. Yeah. Right. That's the kind of interesting programs that we look at. Along the same vein, actually the idea or the philosophy of replacement can be generalized to different tracks. Like we also look at fertility and reproductive science. With that, recently we get to back Kangaroo Biomedical, which is a company that work on artificial womb.
Wow.
So artificial womb is also a kind of replacement where with all the risks and trouble associated with pregnancy, can we create something that replace human labor with, of course, that device?
So would that mean raising a fetus outside of the human body?
That is the goal. It's still early stage. Currently, what we can achieve is to have the mice fetus to develop completely from the artificial womb for about 2 weeks, and we'll go from there. And the next step would be, of course, longer fetus development and primate experiments. And intermediate IPs or milestones can already be useful because we do want to have more primates for experiments, right?
Fascinating. Okay, so you've got replacement, which is kind of out there. Like, how bullish are you right now? Because I'm assuming we're pretty much in the first innings. You know, it's going to take a long time to get there. When you make investments in these sorts of companies, are you thinking, you know what, this is a moonshot. This is probably going to take 10, 15 years to come. Or at what point can you imagine a baby being born outside of a human body?
Right. I am generally a pessimist because with that, I can be pleasantly surprised at times.
Okay.
Before the AI boom, I would say definitely 99.99% of all the moonshot bets that we invested in probably will not be achieved even in our lifetime. Indeed, the purpose of our fund, even we are a small fund, right? If we invest even all of our money into, say, cancer research, that will really be a drop in the bucket. It's not going to move the needle at all. The mission of our fund is to cover the underfunded and the underdeveloped possibilities. We want to cover those low odd bets, so that as a species, we cover as much ground as possible. This pessimism changed a little bit with the hyper fast development of AI. So with AI, we probably can verify or at least falsify some of these possibilities earlier. And then therefore can make adjustments or pivot. So now I would say, well, maybe 99%.
Rather than 99.99.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Yeah. So away from replacement, what else are you interested in?
Replacement itself is already a very, very vast topic.
Because you've got, organ replacement, you've got whole body replacement, right?
Yes.
You've invested in a whole body replacement company.
Yes, that's right.
And just to say for the listeners, that's basically replacing your entire body and then plugging your brain on it.
That's the idea. The idea is to create brainless bodyoid that have all of your organs that have the same genome as you. That is called syngeneic. When the time comes, you can transplant your brain into the new body and therefore radically extend your lifespan. But this technology, if we can develop, have many other added benefits. Like if you have brainless clones, then you can do experiments on those brainless clones, and that would really remove the suffering from experiment animals.
They talk a lot about where the key to your consciousness is, because some people might say, well, actually, if you just simply clone your body and then just plug your brain into your new cloned body, then it's not going to be you, because your consciousness actually is using your mind, body, soul, right? Or the heart, the gut, and the brain. Do you believe if your brain today was going to get plugged into your clone, that you'd be the same person?
We wouldn't know. So these are, again, some of these are really philosophical debates. I don't have much say in it. There's even no guarantee that, okay, today you fall asleep, the next morning you wake up. Is that still you? There's no 100% guarantee. Besides, there's also the issue of the other minds. We are talking, sitting here. Are you sure that there's a consciousness in my brain, or could these all be just made up from your mind? All of these, we're not sure. And that's why we need all the experiments. We need all the bold or even crazy project out there to explore and help us, give us some clues about the answers.
It's amazing you say that. I remember Yuval Harari, the author of *Sapiens*, said the only thing we know is that we are conscious.
Yes.
I don't know if you're conscious. I don't know if the producers in the studio are conscious. Exactly. The only thing I know right now is I am conscious because I know that I'm thinking and I am here.
The problem of other minds.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to your question, right, we are not sure whether the transplant of the brain will create another individual, or will it break the continuity of your consciousness? We don't know. But that gives us even more incentive to actually try it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Fascinating. We have whole body replacement and the replacement. Replacement's a huge space. What else are you looking to invest in? Because I know, again, we've got, when I've got the needle of moonshot and crazy, I would say whole body replacement is pretty far on the crazy spectrum. But we've even got further. We've got whole brain emulation, which is the idea that we would plug our consciousness into the cloud and be in, let's say, a 3D computer world. Have you invested in that at all?
Oh, we have talked to a few companies who are working on that direction.
Okay.
We're still evaluating, and of course, we want to gather enough knowledge, information before making a decision.
Okay.
We are not informed enough in some of those directions, but that's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
When we talk about replacement, the one thing that's tricky will be the brain, because for all other organs, you're probably comfortable replacing them for a new one, but you can't replace the brain because that will make you not you anymore. So for the brain health, it has to be rejuvenation. It has to be incremental approaches rather than replacement. So definitely interesting. Definitely looking at it, but yeah, we don't have much to say about it yet.
Okay, interesting.
Right. Speaking of other directions, there is a more peripheral direction where we also made investment, and that is special economic zone.
Special economic zones. Okay.
Yes. Depending on your perspective, you might say that's even crazier than replacement or less crazy. But the idea of some special economic zones, or they also call themselves network states, is that, you see, the sector that we're working in, longevity, healthcare, bioscience, is heavily regulated. This is very different from, say, AI or internet, where really anything goes. You go ahead and create that company, create that business model, and it will get regulated later. And we have seen that story on Uber, on Airbnb, on PayPal. And these are success stories, right? Was Uber illegal at the beginning? Probably. And later on, they strike a deal, they settle. Can we do the same with healthcare? No, right? So the idea of these network states or special economic zones is where they want to create a sandbox. Inside the sandbox, you have new regulatory framework. You have a more progressive, or at least more open framework, where you have right to try, where many novel interventions or therapeutics can meet with people who have a higher risk appetite. And then as a civilization, we can collect data points from what's happening within the sandbox. And we make sure, those uninformed individuals will not get impacted.
Because you went to Roatan in Honduras, which is a special economic zone, and you
Prospera and Vitalia.
And you took gene therapy, follistatin, which is you can't take actually in the US or Europe right now.
That is correct.
So and that is one of the reasons you were able to take it, because it's a zone where it's an unregulated zone.
Is regulated in a different framework.
In a different framework. Okay.
Right. I'll give another example that hopefully will put things into perspective. In Japan, various stem cell therapies has been legalized for more than a decade. Right. Specifically, they say if it's autologous mesenchymal stem cell therapies, then pretty much the doctor have liberty to inject that be it IV infusion or intravascular or
and so autologous, by the way, is when it's coming from
you.
Yeah.
Right. So it has to be
a stem cell that's coming from you, and then you're injecting
right.
A youthful stem cell, and then you're injecting.
Right. It will get multiplied, expanded.
Yeah.
And that is still not legal in many other parts of the world. Not legal in US, in Singapore. It's all restricted. For example, in the case of Singapore, it can be used to treat, say, cartilage damage, but not IV infusion. But Japan is a well-respected regulatory framework. It's a jurisdiction that people will say is probably pretty legit. So what gives, right? There are differences. So we can't say it's just no regulation, different regulation.
Interesting. Let's go into that a bit deeper, because I want to talk about the attitudes in Japan, in China, in Singapore. We touched on it before, but I feel that there's a different appetite, and it might be down to theological reasons. Because in the West, in, let's say, the US and Europe, we have a Christian society in general. Secular to a certain extent, but Christian. In China, especially, it's more of a secular society, right? And there's a different attitude towards longevity and longevity research.
That is a hard question. And, well, in the context, I'll start with some facts before jumping into a conclusion, right? The matter of facts is not only for longevity science. It seems China or Japan has taken a more progressive, open mindset. These countries are also the leading countries in cloning. So the first primate is a crab-eating macaque, was cloned in Shanghai, China in 2019, not so far from now. And then Korea and Japan were also the leaders in cloning other mammals. And primate experiments are generally more acceptable in these countries compared to the US, where, well, not to mention apes or chimpanzees, these experiments have been banned long ago. Even macaques or other monkeys, for you to get approval for experiment will be hard. So why so? There are different theories, explanations, but in general, what we have seen is that these East Asian countries are more progressive. They're open to more clinical trials. They're open to more animal experiments. And therefore, they're producing, well, pharmaceutical programs that are getting acquired by companies from other parts of the world. This is what we are seeing. What's your sentiment when you hear, oh, we are going to experiment with monkeys? Do you feel like it's very different from doing an experiment on mice, rodents? Or do you feel like it's all animal, it's the same?
I think it's the need in the moment. I think that's the thing. So for example, if we had something similar to coronavirus that had the mortality rate similar to Ebola, then I would say we would 100% have to experiment at a much faster rate with possibly primates to save the human species. But if we're dealing with, let's say, what we're currently dealing with, then I would say that, yeah, to a certain extent. However, I think the big however is, as we're seeing with rapamycin and other therapeutics, the mice data doesn't necessarily translate.
Translate that well.
So it's a bit of a question mark, but I feel that it would be too controversial. I think that's the thing.
Right. So not all animals are created equal. Some, yeah, but it's hard to make a ladder, right? How about pigs and dogs versus rodent? Why is it one is more acceptable versus another? Is this kind of subtle, tricky differences is what I was talking about when I say we share most things in common, really, across culture, religion, race. But these are the nuances that really make a difference.
And I think what you're saying with the special economic zones, it's like even how we treat our bodies or the bodies of others. So what people are saying with the special economic zone is that if I want to do something to my body, I should be able to, because it's my body. And that's what you can do. You can go to Roatan or Prospera or sorry, they're the same place. So if you go to Prospera, you can go to and you can get stem cells or you can get gene therapy. The thing is with animals, it's just, it's an interesting one. I think it varies from culture to culture, and it's it's interesting.
Absolutely. I have another theory, but it's a untested one. We often say the East is more collectivism, all about the greater good, especially in the context of East Asian countries. And that inference from that is that people might be more indifferent about individual sacrifice, probably a little bit, versus if we can make progress as a whole. Whereas in the West, it's more individualist. And then, well, even one monkey is suffer, that is as good as I am suffering. And I don't care if the entire science is stagnated or it just wouldn't trade. If you look in that light, then maybe in the East, people are not so concerned about sacrificing one or two monkeys for the greater good. Whereas in the West, people draw that kind of, they will think that, okay, if now you can sacrifice this monkey for experiment, maybe next it will be me.
It comes down to the Overton window as well. It's like right now, everyone in the West is very used to mice being used in experiments. And so we think of the world in that sort of way. To think of primates being used is such a radical shift that it's just not kind of wired in our consciousness. But if it were to happen, it would be shocking. And then all of a sudden it wouldn't be shocking because we would get used to it. And I think this is what we're seeing in the world as the world moves so fast and we see things happening in front of our eyes for good and for bad. It's amazing how quickly the human mind gets used to things. It's quite a dangerous precedent, but it's also when it comes to good, the good that can happen in the world, it's very exciting because all of a sudden we talk about the idea of living disease-free. It's like, oh, shut up. No way that's going to happen, that we could live without, that I could be running and sprinting at the age of 120. And then it happens and all of a sudden we're like, well, that's just
normal.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, people are all nitpicking about how GPT-5 is so stupid. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, exactly. When you start thinking about primates and all that, like for the greater good, I think the context depends. I'm being also I haven't thought about it. I think sometimes you need to paint a clear picture of how it's about storytelling as well. It's like, this might be a bit of suffering, but if this can then lead to a cancer-free world, if we have to sacrifice here and that is what happens, then it starts to become a slightly different conversation. But it's a dangerous precedent as well. And I think that's the thing that scares people. And it's this, you see it at a human level as well. So as in like how dangerous it can be when people start talking in that way, because it might be someone who lives very far away from you until it's not, until it's actually you or your family member. And that's the dangerous precedent. So let's go back to longevity. Right now, in terms of the investments that you see in the space, what are the unmet needs? If you were going to advise a bunch of investors, because there's loads of investors looking into the space, they're excited about the space, what would you say to them? You should invest here or there.
Oh, that's a hard one, because really, if it's mission aligned people, then, well, I have voted using my own money. And then what I do is that I actually try to cover the low odd bets, right? Because I feel like for some of the other more imminent or obvious investment targets, then it will be covered by bigger players who know their game and play it well. I can't advise other just investors, because by investing, they probably want to maximize their return. And I'm not nearly the right person to give advice on that, right? They should probably go and invest in AI. Let's buy NVIDIA. But if it's mission aligned people, then I would say, well, I'm at least being honest, and I'm investing my own money into these and these because I truly believe in them. I truly believe in those and they have the potential of push the boundary of what's possible. So if you are really so inclined, this is what I invest and you can follow.
So the space is moving very fast. I want to start going into your crystal ball because you're investing in a lot of moonshots that are only going to come to fruition in many years' time. By 2035, and we played this game before, me and you, what does the world look like, especially in the context of longevity?
2035. That's like 10 years from now.
Indeed.
Longevity or healthcare moves relatively slowly. My wild guess is that by that time, super intelligence and AI, AGI pretty much will be there. And with the help of AGI, we will have tons of very promising programs in the pipeline. And they are kind of the only limitation for them is the regulation pipeline. So basically, we will have tons of very promising therapeutics interventions and just waiting to be out. Hopefully there will be dozens of blockbuster drugs or other forms that's as big as GLP-1. And hopefully by that time, longevity, hero science will be a very hot topic for investment, for research interest. Because, well, now with AI, many other problems will be tackled already. And so only left with the hardest ones.
What does society look like by then? Especially in the lens of the East. When you look at Singapore, Singapore less so because it's very longevity focused. What happens in China? What happens in Japan?
Well, there's a possibility that a healthy lifespan will become a new resource or new currency, but it's untradeable, unfortunately. So your asset, money itself, might not be so meaningful anymore. If you consider the abundance of intelligence, when you have abundance in intelligence, you probably even have abundance in labor because humanoid robotics with AI and all, that should be able to create fortune for you like automatically. So if that becomes abundant, what is still scarce will be health. Healthy people will be regarded as the real rich. But unfortunately, that's not tradable. Society might look pretty different.
Have you watched the film On Time? I think it's In Time, On Time with Justin Timberlake.
Oh, it's one where you actually are able to trade.
You're able to trade
your
time.
Seconds.
Yeah. Do you think it'll look something like that?
Well, those are commercial movies, right? So it's not like really that scientific, or even with all the assumptions. Even if you can trade time, there has to be more system design and mechanisms to make sure it's in place. But
they say some of the best predictors of the future are people that write sci-fi and dystopian movies. Well, dystopian less so, but science fiction.
No, I doubt that. I think if that actually happened, people like the role that Justin Timberlake played, he will basically become very powerful. He will be regarded as someone who have resources, fortune. Not a blood bag provides for others.
You said you were pessimistic beforehand, or you like to take a pessimistic view, so you're pleasantly surprised. Is there any kind of longevity therapeutic that you're excited that you think will come to market soon and move the needle forward?
Well, that's an interesting one. Generally, when I talk to especially my layman friends who are not as crazy, I will give them recommendations in tiers. Tier 1 is mostly measurements, where I believe is pretty much risk-free, and I recommend everybody to take, like early cancer detection or some functional tests like VO2 max. That's really no harm. And when it comes to tier 2, I talk about treatments or drugs that's already in the market for 5 to 10 years. Plenty of evidence, data points, things like PCSK9, Leqvio. Well, GLP-1, GIP falls in that category as well. It, of course, not only manages the weight, it also have the benefit of stabilized blood sugar level.
Yeah.
So that's tier 2. Tier 3 is probably fits your question. The thing that might hit the market soon and we are excited about. Therapeutic plasma exchange is one intervention that have been applied in the hospital setting for a long time, but that is only for acute medical conditions. But now researchers are discovering its benefit even to healthy individuals.
This is the blood boys. Is this related to what Brian Johnson did with his son?
It's related, yes. The current practice, we no longer use blood boys, or at least your blood boy do not sit next to you, right?
Sorry, can you repeat that? Like, what do you mean by that?
Right. The version of TPE, therapeutic plasma exchange, that Brian Johnson did, and previously Peter Thiel did, is more like biosis, whereby there's another individual sitting here, connect you two together so that his plasma flows to yours. No, we no longer do that. What we do is that we will take your blood, of course, use centrifuge, we will separate the plasma with all the cells, and then the plasma is discarded. Instead, we replenish you with a synthesized formula that has saline, gels like gelatin, but also albumin.
Yeah.
Right. That's an essential protein, and a little bit of other factors. So this is a synthesized formula. It's already there. So you are effectively exchanging your plasma with plasma in the bag, not a blood boy. But the catch is, currently the most effective, efficient way for us to produce albumin is still from donors, right? So somebody else would donate his plasma, and we do processing, purification, such that there's only human sourced albumin left, and then it's used in the formula.
Okay.
Is it possible to produce albumin using bacteria, other ways of production? Of course, yes, but it's not the most cost efficient way yet. So this is the current version of plasma exchange that most clinics use if they actually provide this treatment.
Interesting. And that's the thing you're most excited about that's going to come to market?
I think it strikes a good balance between risk and reward, because one is a approved procedure. It's not unheard of. It's just that we are not expanding the indication. We are now using it off-label, right? So that is easy to get approved. The medical equipment is there. The procedure is established. It's there. Yeah. That's the first benefit. And from years of practicing these, we also know the potential risks, aversive events, and what are the protocol to deal with those.
Yeah.
So that's another. And lastly, well, the evidence is, I won't say enough, but the evidence is promising, and we have some theories, some hypotheses behind to explain why it might be beneficial, right? Waste removal being a good hypothesis.
Yeah.
Probably there are waste stuck in your plasma, and we help you to get it out. With all this, this is one I think that have the potential to be a blockbuster.
Amazing. Boyang, as a parting thought, what advice would you give to someone that is just looking at this space and thinking, yeah, where do I start?
Well, I would say keep an open mind, but at the same time, be very cautious. There are two mistakes that you can make. One is, of course, be too conservative. If you listen to your doctor only, who is experienced, who are educated 30, 40 years ago, who might not be catching up with the latest developments, your experienced doctor might simply reject everything. You might think, yeah, Ozempic, bad for your health. PCSK9, unheard of. These new drugs probably have issues, because he's not familiar with that, especially early in his career. Another mistake you can make is to be too risk-taking, and then you will get into trouble, and that will really stop you from further exploring and might even brought in a permanent damage. That's the two kind of mistakes. So depending on the kind of individual, depending on the risk appetite, I will either advise someone to be more open-minded. Doctors are humans. They have their limitations. They can make mistakes. So just one doctor saying, no, this is heretic, don't touch this, doesn't mean it's actually not proven scientifically. But if it's someone who is too risk-taking, then I must advise that this is not like trying out electric vehicle or smartphone. There are consequences, and really you should be cautious about trying therapeutics, but you should be very open-minded when it comes to learning the knowledge, gathering the information, and formulate your own perspectives.
A final parting question. It's related to being someone who grew up in China, was born in China. When you're in the West, in the US, in Europe, in Singapore, which is West-East, is there something you wish people in the West did or learned from the Eastern practices when it comes to longevity?
Wow, that's an interesting one. I want to answer by briefing a bit about my experience. So I was born in China, lived in multiple cities in China, and then I moved to Singapore when I was pretty young. I worked in Israel for a year and a half. That was pretty much my first job fresh out of university. And then I spent a few months in Ukraine as well, because we had a R&D center in Ukraine where we gather all the brilliant developers from Eastern Europe. I studied in the US for graduate school. So I pretty much had some exposure from places. My biggest takeaway is really that for most of the things we share in common, really, we are all Homo sapiens. And given the right environment and catalyst, we behave very, very similarly. And with that, the little bit of differences really stand out. From the Eastern practice, a lot of the things we share, but I guess one concept that was not emphasized enough is the idea of following the natural path. Here's what I mean. Let's say you discover this diet. It's a very strict one. And by following the diet, some researchers claim that you can be 5%, 8% healthier. But the diet makes you suffer. You don't like Mediterranean diet and you have to follow that because according to research, that is the healthiest. Then I would say probably the negative mental stress, unhappiness that you are getting is more harmful than the nutritional goods. And well, in Taoism or in the Eastern culture, there are many ways, many idioms or sayings that capture this. You should kind of follow the natural way, right? 自然. And that I feel like sometimes it's not emphasized enough. According to the longevity gurus, you should really do 2 hours of zone 2 training, and then you maximize your VO2 max, and then you go for your intermittent fasting, and then some other strict diet, and then you go to sleep exactly at the right time and for X amount of hours. If that's natural to you, then go for it. But if it's not, then probably you can make peace with yourself.
What a great way to finish. Boyang, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
If you want to know what tomorrow has in store like I do, you definitely want to listen to our recent episode where I talked to Peter Diamandis about a future where we could live forever. Thank you so much.